Curling now enters the Sports Weekend spotlight.
Good evening, curling fans. Colleen,
Twins.
Twins, but this curling beat is exhausting. This has been another dramatic day.
There's been so much going on, hasn't there, with the announcement of John Morris and Rachel Homan as the mixed doubles Olympic reps. And it's drawn a lot of conversation in the curling world for sure. They were the pick after, of course, the mixed Olympic doubles trials were canceled because too many of the curlers had COVID.
Yeah.
So they were in the unenviable position of having to choose a team. So they were between a rock and a hard place. But Devin, one of the things that kind of pops up a lot is that what took them so long still, and the lack of transparency about it. So
yeah, and Call, we're going to get into all of that tonight. We're going to talk to Rachel and John. The reason we more than anything wanted to do tonight's show is to put a lot of your questions to Rachel and John, but of course, we're counting down to the Olympics. We have Jennifer Jones to start the show. We've got Brad Gushue at the end of the show. But before we get to all of that, Colleen, of course, some breaking news, literally moments before we are going on the air about the Scotties field and the Brier field expanding to 18 teams, just like they did 1 year ago. So there it is, Call.
Made a lot of sense last year, of course, it being Olympic year. They wanted to make sure that some of the teams that weren't able to reach the point maximum, et cetera, could get in. That there was this year, it's sort of like, well, the Olympics teams have already happened. However, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. There were still a lot of teams and provincials that weren't decided. And of course, when we talked to Rachel and John earlier, Rachel was a little vague over what her team status was, right?
Right.
Now, as we can see, it's going to be Team Rachel Homan as wild card number 3, and skipping Homan will be
Ali Flaxey.
I should have got a whiteboard ready because I'm not going to be able to remember.
Do you not have a single whiteboard?
I didn't know because you know what? I don't have a whiteboard big enough to talk about all the things we're going to talk about.
Well, exactly. And we want to put all of this to the fans. And I know producer Sophie has been busy throughout the day getting your questions and incorporating them into the show. But if you can send them in, we'll get them on the ticker at the bottom. But you said it off the start, Call. We're matching.
We're matching. Mine arrived.
And you curling fans can match us because, of course, that curling show merchandise is now available online at blackmapletrading.com. Call. You've got the mugs, you've got the sweaters, everything you need.
It's everything I need. Anyhow, this is going to make packing for the Olympics, by the way, so easy, because all I'm going to bring are our sweatshirts and our swag and our CBC Olympic paraphernalia. But there's a lot of work you and I have to do before we get on the plane. So a lot of tests, no different than the athletes, a lot of tests to pass.
13 days away from the first charter that will have us, and we'll have the first wave of Canadian Olympians headed over to Beijing as we count down to the games. And let's get right to it, because guess what, Call? Jennifer Jones is headed back to another Olympics, and she's in the house and on the show with us here tonight. Jen, great to see you. Cole and I were just saying 13 days away from when we're getting on a plane. The countdown's on. How are you feeling? And great to see you.
Oh, so great to see you. Yeah, the countdown's definitely on for sure. We're starting to have all our PCR tests, so it's starting to feel a little bit more real.
I don't know about you, but every PCR test I get, Jennifer, I am holding my breath, like going, I've done everything I could. I'm wearing the mask, except in here with my dog. Listen, I was going to say you're probably jealous of our twinsies matching that curling show, but I see you've got your Olympic jacket on. So
yeah, who doesn't want to wear an Olympic jacket? Come on.
Oh, I would kill for it. Okay, so, just kidding. How are you guys prepping? How's that going?
Yeah, well, we've been practicing. We've had some, Ontario shut down. So where I am, we had to we figured out ways. So the team is going to be flying. We're flying out of Toronto. So the team is flying in, and we're going to isolate and bubble here and train here together as a team. So that they're all coming in the next few days. So really exciting to get to see everybody. And we haven't really seen a lot of each other since the trials.
Jen, you were just talking about the excitement, and of course, what a bizarre thing to be saying the PCR tests are making it real for you. But we've had so many conversations about how much you live for these moments, for the biggest, brightest, grandest moments in your sport. So where are the emotions at right now as you get ready to head back to the 5-ring circus?
It's starting to get really exciting. Not that it wasn't exciting before, which it was, but then over the holidays, it was just so COVID focused because obviously there was a lot of outbreaks across the country, and we're just trying to avoid getting sick. And then you're trying to avoid getting sick, but then trying to come up with a plan to prepare and get ready for the Olympics. So now that all the planning is done and that's in place, and it's kind of weird to say the PCR is making it feel like more real. Like I never, it just seems like a weird thing to say, but really excited for the girls to come in and start training. And I feel like we're all really ready to go, and we've got every plan is done. Now it's just a matter of throwing some rocks and feeling good and then catching a flight.
Was making the plan about the PCR test and all the COVID protocols and bubbling harder than, planning a curling practice?
Yeah, it definitely. And it changed like where we are flying out of, where we could go, and then different restrictions in different provinces, and trying to make sure that we could get a facility that we could train in. My poor kids, like even if the kids go back to school, they're not going back because we don't see anybody. We don't see family. We don't see friends. We just see us. And so it's a big sacrifice for a lot of people. But I mean, it's like, I can't complain. We're going to the Olympics. It's really exciting. But there was a lot more planning this time than when we went to Sochi, where it was just a matter of like normal practice and competing and then putting together a training camp before Sochi. This was a lot more complicated.
Jen, we're getting so many great questions. I don't know if you're seeing them flash across the bottom, but one of them was about what has kept you motivated throughout the pandemic. And I know you've mentioned that this sort of sparked your love for curling. Not that maybe you lost it, but a different perspective. But that's a great question about, what has kept you motivated amidst all of this.
It's not hard to be motivated right now, like in terms of going to the Olympics. It's a dream come true, like how lucky we are to still be able to do what we love to do. And we want to go over there and we want to play well and perform well. So it's just a little bit complicated in terms of balancing and our families and trying to figure out how to homeschool, well train for the Olympics, and all the planning and everything that goes involved right now. But the motivation is always there. I mean, I love to play. I love to curl. I love to slide on the ice, and it gives me a lot of joy. So in a time during this pandemic when joy is maybe a little bit more tricky to find, we're kind of grasping on all the joy that we can get, and we get to do what we love to do with people that I love. So actually feeling quite grateful. It's complicated. It wasn't as complicated.
Yeah. Glad. So nice to hear you're feeling grateful. And it was also cool to hear you say when we went to Sochi, because that does feel like a while ago. But again, how does that last experience help you here?
Oh, how fun is that picture? Oh, I'll never forget that moment. Experience definitely helps. You know what to expect. We know all the things that we were super grateful for that we would never change. And so we're going to try to go in with the same attitude and have fun and just soak up the experience and do our very best to represent Canada as well as we possibly can, and leave it all on the ice. So I'm like getting captivated by the pictures, getting distracted. It's super exciting. And as much as Sochi was 8 years ago, it feels like yesterday. Like Isabella was 1 and she's now 9. It's so hard to believe. And I think it's because we're doing what we love to do that time just kind of seems to fast forward a little bit. So we're still going with the same love, the same energy, the same excitement. And I can tell all Canadians that we're going to do our absolute best to be as prepared as we can be. And we're going to go in there and never give up until they tell us we can no longer curl.
Speaking of Isabella and the girls at home and Brent at home, and of course your mom, it takes a village, as Colleen always says. Jen, how has this been to navigate all of this and all the planning and everything, and then maybe just to comment on what it means to have your girls watching their mom compete at the Olympics.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit more complicated to navigate because we're trying not to see anybody. My mom is going to come here. Brent actually curls his provincial during the Olympics, so mom's going to come and take care of the kids then, and they're going to sit and cheer together and watch together. I'm sure she'll be up all night. My mom does not miss a game live. So if you're wondering who's watching, my mom will definitely be tuning in, hopefully with some other Canadians that can't sleep for those 2 a.m. draws. But yeah, I couldn't do it without my mom, without Brent, without so many other friends and family that are just in our corners. I pick up the phone and I need help, and they're always there. And even with all of this, like people bringing groceries and just kind of helping out with encouraging words and helping find like accommodations and everything that we needed in order to have this training camp. So feeling very lucky. And then for my girls that are going to be old enough to remember, like Skyla, the last time we went to the World Championship was 2018, and she was just 1. So she's 5 now, and she'll remember. And I think that's pretty great. And they're so excited. Isabella has to do a speech on a famous Canadian, and she chose me. So, and the speech is in February. So it's kind of really, like, she's really excited about it. And her classmates and her teachers are super excited. And I think they're doing a little bit around the Olympics. So I think my girls feel like little celebrities a little bit, and they're just enjoying. Honestly, if you were to ask them, they just love watching me chase my dreams, because that's all we talk about in our house is just doing what you love to do, chasing your dreams, and never letting anybody tell you can't do something, because we can do anything we set our minds to.
I think I'll get that tattooed on my arm right there. That's so good. I'm going to try to play that back in my mind. I mean, navigating COVID and arranging everything on the family front is one thing too, but how all of that's kind of intimidating and work. But tell me about the work of the field, because wow, what a women's field. Does that intimidate even the GOAT?
It's a great field. We said that going into Sochi. I remember having all these conversations saying it was the best field ever assembled. And I feel like every event now that we talk about, it's the best field ever assembled, which is saying so many great things about women's curling, right? Like so many great teams in so many different countries, and just to be included with these great players and great teams, we're very excited. We know all the teams. We play against them regularly, like throughout the season, maybe not as regularly lately, but we know what to expect, and we know the expectations are, like, we know we're going to have to play our very best in order to win or to beat these teams and to get ourselves a chance in the playoffs. So there's going to be not really many surprises, but we're ready for the challenge.
No doubt you are. Jen, always grateful for you making time, and I know it's bedtime, almost bedtime.
Almost.
So you've got to get the girls to bed. But of course, we're going to be along for the journey, and we can't wait to be covering your story in Beijing.
We'll be phoning your mom for that curling show. Let her know. So.
Oh, she loves the curling show. She will definitely accept. And I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you for helping promote curling, and thank you to all the Canadians who are going to tune in to watch. And during these crazy times, like, we're going to do our very best to give you lots to cheer about. So thank you so very much for all the support. We're so grateful, and it's such a privilege to represent Canada.
Well
Awesome.
said.
Yep. Thank you, Jen.
See you in Beijing.
We'll see you there.
Wow. Fingers crossed. Stay healthy, you guys, so you can.
Yeah, I know.
You too.
Pending passing all of those tests.
Yeah.
I'm remembering to go to the tests.
I know.
Anyway, good to see
Bye,
you, Jennifer.
Bye, Jen.
Her
PCR
perspective gets better with time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just playing over PCR tests are making it feel real. Like, if that doesn't tell you where we're at, right?
Yeah. Kind of crazy times. And it is nerve-wracking to be an athlete and making sure that you get into a bubble and not see anybody. And even for us, we're very aware. We're still working outside, so that makes it a little complicated, but it definitely is right now my biggest paranoia after staying COVID free for the 2 years. Suddenly you're going, what happens in the next 2 weeks? Or
and Call, you and I are going as journalists and as broadcasters. Imagine these curlers who have worked their entire lives for this moment, and we know that Rachel and John are going to be heading to a house in Canmore with Coach Scott Pfeiffer to isolate, and I think we should learn more about that, shouldn't we? And introduce the mixed doubles team.
Nice to see you again, and thanks for joining us again today, because we wanted to bring in Twitter fans. You probably both know curling world's been, this has been the talk of the town today. And I know that it's not what they're more concerned about, the fans often, is sometimes the lack of clarity that came about with how the team was chosen and the length of time. So we wanted to have you back just to ask some questions. I think that was one of the first questions that we saw tonight, wasn't it, Devin? About how, what was it?
When did you guys find out? When did you get the phone call? Because
yeah,
Rachel,
that was one of the first tweets we saw.
Because Rachel, you told us it's a call everybody wants to get. So when did you get it?
I don't know. It feels like it's just really exciting to get that phone call. I, to be honest, don't really know what date is today. I think, was it Wednesday, John? I can't even remember. Tuesday?
It was about a day or so ago where we pretty much got the call, and we were in complete limbo, just like all the other mixed doubles teams were until that. And, so it was I think there was a lot that went into the decision, and a lot of other people involved, that it wasn't just I can understand everyone wanting to know, but I think there's a lot that went into it, and I'm sure it would have been a very tough decision to have made quickly. So
yeah, and it puts you guys in a funny spot too, because this wasn't your doing, right? You're just the event was canceled, and
we wanted to play. We wanted to compete against Canada's best, just like every other team in that trial wanted to do. So
yeah, I think that was the most disappointing thing, was that we're sitting there at Christmas with our families, and we're not sure if we're going to trials, and we were isolated because we didn't know what was happening. And then obviously they tried everything they could and took it right to the last second, and then obviously had to cancel it. And it sucks. It's not fair for everyone. Everybody deserved and earned that spot to be in trials and compete, and it sucks. And I know that everybody was just kind of on edge. I talked to a few curlers, like we were all kind of, you feel it's out of your control. And I know that the provincials happened, and so to announce something like this in the middle of provincials just didn't make any sense on multiple levels. And I know John on Monday flew home and gave me a call and was like, "Do you hear anything?" I was like, "Nope, still throwing up over here." So it was just like, that was just kind of how we felt. And we're just thankful that they took their time and made sure that they did as best process as they could under the circumstances. Obviously, no one's prepared for something like that. And we're just really grateful and kind of humbled that Curling Canada would put their faith in us to be able to put the maple leaf on our back and go fight for Canada in Beijing.
Sorry, Devin, you go ahead.
Okay, just on the process, on the process, Johnny, you had mentioned you watched the last show and you saw what Tyrell had said, and you would have seen what other people said. You have been in a lot of ways a poster boy for mixed doubles, and you love this discipline. So where do we go from here, Johnny, with mixed doubles in this country?
Well, I think there's a lot of, this brought up a lot of discussion. I think will be great, because I think we want to, as a country, especially with a history like Canada, really nail what we're our identity with mixed doubles. And I think we've kind of been fighting with, do we keep all the best players playing mixed doubles or just have specialists? So we're in a very unique situation because we have so much good depth in Canada. And these are some really good discussions to have. And I think that what we're going to see moving forward is there's going to be a lot of athletes involved in these discussions with a lot of the provincial and curling admin. And hopefully we can come up to a collective, really good collective solution. Mm-hmm. And I have faith in that. And I think that, there's going to be a tough year ahead to make sure we do that. But I think it's vital, because fast forward 4 years down the road, we want to have like a rock solid system that's going to have, your for sure top three teams in mixed doubles. Mm. Well, God forbid if this ever happens again, it's not going to be as grueling and grinding of a process for everyone involved.
Mm. Well, part of the thing they could do right off the bat is just moving the mixed double so it doesn't conflict with Christmas, and it's not so last minute too. That there was no wiggle room in this, really.
Yeah,
Somebody's asking about a spare. Rachel, don't get sick. There's
happen.
no spares in mixed doubles. Hey, that must be nerve-wracking in COVID.
Well, let's just say this: if we arrive and there won't be any spares getting on that plane with us once we go. So I hope you guys have brushed up on your curling skills, because if Rachel all go down, guys, I want to see Devin bringing the heat and Colleen Jones
matching outfits,
chewing that gum back in the house again. What are the chances?
I can chew. We're planning for 2026. Somebody else just tweeted, Rachel, what are the shots you need to practice when you guys are getting together in your training camp? What are the important ones? Are they a little different than your 4-person game?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't practice the corner tick on my 4-person team. That's not usually one of my shots. No, I think that it's a lot of feel shots, stuff that we practice all the time. And then obviously the strategy is a little bit different. And thankfully we have an expert on our team.
Who's that?
Yeah, who's that?
Who's that?
Scotty Pfeiffer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, between Scott and John and Paul, they know so much about mixed doubles, and I've been able to play in some big games with John and get a lot of experience that way, and it's been fun to watch when I wasn't able to play. And so we're able to take all that information. It's not just about shots. I mean, we're a team coming together, so we have to make sure our communication is the way we want it. And obviously calling lines a little bit different. I'm used to calling it from in the house and having that other vantage point. Sometimes you can't see as well from the other end. And so trying to nail down those kinds of things. And really it's just fine tuning. We've been training all year to make curling shots, and now it's just fine tuning this team together in the next couple of weeks. And we're really excited to get started.
This is a bond that goes back a long way, and there are some wonderful photos that have been surfacing over the last 24 hours. I hope we have some of those, and maybe John and Rachel will just get you to talk about some of these stories of how long this connection between you two and your families go back. Johnny?
Well, this is a photo of, I was joking yesterday. I said, this is not me and Rachel. This is my dad. This is my dad and Rachel. And no, we have that was, my dad's coached Rachel for so many years. I played with Rachel's brother, Mark Homan, out of Ottawa. And one of my first curling memories, true story, is Rachel's dad, Craig, was we'd kind of rotate who drove who to the rink. And when I was playing with Mark, this was a game or a tournament that we were going to, and Rachel's dad was driving. And I'll never forget this. One of my first memories was listening, like it was the old cassette tape. And there was a Genesis tape.
We're the same vintage, John. Wow.
I was in the back with Mark playing cards or something, and it was Genesis playing "I Can't Dance" in the background, and I was like, I just can't get that out of my memory. And I always joke with Rachel, say, "Is your dad still listening to Phil Collins or what?"
Oh, that drum beat. Rachel, somebody tweeted about superstitions. Okay, what are yours? And John, you think of yours?
Well, I think watching John in the provincials, I hadn't texted him before any of the games, and I was kind of excited for him to play in the final and watch him, but I couldn't text him because I hadn't texted him before any other games, and if I did, he would have lost. It would have been on me, so I helped them out by staying silent.
Very thoughtful. And is that your only superstition?
I think just things like that where you kind of get into a role and things are working and you don't fix what isn't broken. So I think I stick more to that.
Okay. Johnny?
You know what? I had a few more when I was younger. I remember when I was in juniors, for big games, I'd always have this, it's kind of embarrassing. I had this special set of underwear I always wore for big championship games, but that was back in the day.
No.
I would say
the underwear.
Yeah, I know that's long gone, that underwear. But I think our most superstitious fellow on our men's team is Ben Hebert. He'll make sure if we're winning some games, we take the same route to the game and to the arena. But I think as you get a little bit older and you learn from a few good sports psychologists, it's not very good to have superstitions. So those kind of have gone by the wayside.
Rachel, can we ask you, right before we came on air, the Scotties announcement, the 18-team field, and your team is headed to the Scotties. What has this communication been like for you? Because I know you were put in a really challenging position with this decision and what it would mean for your team. And now we learned Team Homan will be at the Scotties.
Yeah, I mean, a big almost relief for the girls and myself. Obviously, I would never want to jeopardize our team and their ability to go to a national championship. We all work so hard all year and the past 25 years to put into the sport, and it was definitely a tough position that we were put in, and a little bit disappointing, but we knew we had a lot of support, and that hopefully we were just hoping that we were able to continue that journey of the national championship.
Perfect.
Well, the fans have kind of gone easy on the questions, I would say, considering the traffic that was on Twitter through the day. One of the things people kept pointing out, though, about, and you mentioned it a little bit, John, about maybe rewriting the playbook, and these are unprecedented times, of course, but are the points out the window? I mean, because that's what people thought would happen in choosing the mixed doubles team, and they went on several different criteria, obviously.
You know what? I think there's been so much emphasis on the points, and I know that it's been such a weird 2 years where events have been canceled out west. They're still going out east, vice versa. You have, it's just I would say a really, I think the points are vital. And I think that that's one of the major things that we need to shore up. But if you look at it in the world, there's not even a world mixed doubles bona fide point system. It's that new of a sport where it hasn't even, I know Caitlin Schneider and I, we put together a point system to provide the World Curling Federation because there's no bona fide system in place yet. So it's just, I think that's definitely something that needs to be shored up moving forward. I don't think, there is probably a few loose ends with that I think could have been more helpful here. I feel for a lot of those teams that have played just mixed doubles and played a lot, because I know how much goes into sacrificing your time, your family, your work, into trying to get to an Olympics and to make those trials. But I don't want to get into that argument. I think, I'm not for or against the points. I just think that needs to be shored up so that we won't have this issue in the future. And I think that it's going to be tackled, and it's going to be better moving forward. And I look forward to I'm very passionate about mixed doubles, and I don't, when I'm done competing and I'm cheering on Canada and I want to see the game of mixed doubles grow. I've always said that since day one. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure we have a better point system in Canada and around the world, so that we can have properly seeded events, and so many good things will come from that. So as a fan of mixed doubles and as someone who wants to see the sport grow, I really think that's an important part of it moving forward.
Yeah.
Well said, Ronnie. Yeah. Okay, so now what, guys?
Canmore.
We know you're going to a vacation in Canmore. Yeah, right. It's not a vacation. Rachel and Johnny, what happens now? Because of course the clock is ticking. I think it's 19 days until Great Britain and Norway on February 3rd. Not that I've looked over the schedule, but Rachel, what's the plan from here until that point?
We head off to Canmore in a couple days here, and just tying up a few loose ends at home. Obviously, things flew at us quick, and we were able to kind of finalize some things in the home front. Sean and I both have little ones at home that we have to make sure taken care of. We can't just take off, and so we've got so much family support at home and friends and family that it makes that a lot easier for us, and we're really thankful for that. I think we get there on Saturday, and we have a great training camp lined up with on and off ice, and kind of allotted time just for us so that we can make sure that we're staying healthy and safe, and making sure that we're doing everything we need to get ready for Beijing.
Awesome. Well, nice to talk to you again today. And nice for the Twitter fans to send in some lovely questions.
Yeah, they took it easy on us. We'll take that. And we got some good coffee for next week too, Devin. I know you'll be happy to
Hey,
we got some real good coffee ready for that trip.
we are not going to be sleeping. We are going to be having daily conversations with the two of you in Beijing. So as I always say, buckle up. And I will await the coffee out of a cereal bowl, of course.
Right on, guys.
Or no, Devin, you're bringing that curling.
Oh,
shirt.
right. Sorry, the curling mug.
It's making the trip, eh?
We'll bring you guys curling mugs.
I
Right
can't
on.
wait.
Yeah, look forward to it, guys. And we'll, I'm sure we'll chat with you the next few weeks. But
Yeah.
thanks for having us on. Go Canada.
Okay, yeah. This chapter of
Stay
the
safe.
book, I guess, is kind of closed until whenever it develops again.
Right.
See you later. Good luck.
You guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Good to talk to John and Rachel, and good to get their perspective, Colleen, because we've been reading the comments today, and as
That
you
Twitter
said,
blew up.
the transparency and the points,
And that's got nothing to do with John and Rachel, right? It was just that people expected to kind of know sooner. And some people think, because, you know, we did get the information on how the teams, what went into the criteria.
And you know what? We're going to talk to Mike Harris, Bruce Rainey, and Joanne Courtney at the end of the show.
So just a quick look at this.
But here is the criteria: the final point standings.
They looked at that, but that was only worth up to 3 points awarded to teams based on these point totals. So the point totals sort of a bit of a, I don't know, issue for a lot of people. Why bother with them if they didn't count? The second thing was a look at the international competitive experience at Olympic Games and World Curling Championships. So, of course, that would have ruled out several of the mixed doubles specialists, especially Griffiths and Martin right away. And then this one was a weird one, number 3, the combined win-loss percentages of individual players in mixed doubles games during the trials qualifying period. Whoo! When you look at that, that's, I mean, I don't know how they came up with the math and the numbers and things like that, but Rachel and John led in that department, probably all 3 departments. But the fact that we found that out and that it wasn't transparent sort of from the get-go on as soon as it was canceled, maybe not on December 26th when it was canceled in December 27th. We'll give them a couple of days, but to let people know, look, we're not just going to look at points. We're going to look at a variety of things, because that's what caused the anxiety for the other curlers that were wishing and hoping that maybe they would be picked.
Right.
Right. And everybody supports Rachel and John Morris. They're a fantastic team.
Right.
And so this isn't their issue. It was probably the transparency. A lot of people have told me the trust in Curling Canada has eroded because of this. Those are strong words people are speaking. But it's just that it took so long, and there wasn't a lot of transparency about what was going into the selection process.
And let us not forget that the Canadian Olympic Committee and Own the Podium, which Colleen is a medal producing machine. That's what they are focused on. So that second point of international experience
is huge. You always know it's a frightening moment anytime Curling Canada might think they're going to send a team to an Olympics or even a World Championship when it's their first time. And you see why the Europeans, whether it's Nicodine or Anna Hasselberger or any of them, they keep going back year after year, and they get more experience, more season, more toughness. It helps.
Experience matters. Every curler we've talked to tonight has the experience of the Olympics.
Yeah.
And the next curler we're about to talk about also has the Olympic experience a long time ago when he was 25 years old. Brad Gushue winning gold in 2006. Remember this? Brad, great to see you. I said it. How long ago does 2006 feel to you?
A lifetime ago. Completely different world for me this time around. Like, I was single, only focused on curling 16 years ago. Now I'm married with kids, with businesses. It's completely different. And obviously, being in a pandemic, it's going to be a completely different experience.
But how did that experience back in Torino, Italy, help you for this experience?
I think it's going to help us a lot. I think just even in the planning process, we've been there before. We know what to expect. Obviously, things have changed probably a little bit over 16 years, but we know what the athletes' village is going to be like, the cafeteria, all that stuff. So we have that bit of familiarity with it, and even looking down at the rocks and seeing the Olympic rings. I know for me, 16 years ago, that was a big moment when we first got into practice, and you look down, you spin the rock, and you're like, wow, the Olympic rings are actually embroidered or whatever it would be embossed on this rock. Even those little moments are going to be a little bit different this time around because we've been there, we've done that. But we also have to consider we got Brett and Jeff who haven't had the opportunity to experience that. So it's going to be fun for those guys to experience it for the first time, and for me and Mark to get back there. It's going to be exciting.
Brad, I've come to know through all our conversations, you're a meticulous planner, and now you're planning to go to Olympics in the midst of a global pandemic with Omicron raging. So what is a planner trying to do to keep the team and everyone safe? Because I wrote a story last week saying the sense right now I'm getting is just don't get COVID. So what's the plan?
Yeah, that's essentially the plan. We're on our probably 7th or 8th plan. We've done this multiple times, but it basically came down to, I would say, shortly after New Year's, when things weren't looking good with the Omicron virus in the country. I reached out to Jeff Stoughton and I said, what is the best way for us to get over there and be safe? And he went to the doctors and they came back with a plan. And I said, okay, this is kind of the plan we're going to take. And when I reached out to Mark to discuss it, it made a whole lot of sense for us too to leave early and get out to Vancouver and get ready for the Olympics there, because it almost feels like we're a bit of a burden on our families here, because we've been isolating since Christmas Day and our kids can't see their friends. They can't even see their grandparents. So once we get away, they can at least engage with some of our extended family and their friends and get back to school as well. So, we've taken every precaution to make sure we're safe, and hopefully it works out. But, it's a little bit scary as an athlete at this time where you could have your Olympic dream taken away by a virus, which is a tough thing, but we're taking every precaution and hopefully it works out for us.
So how long will you bubble?
So we're, like I said, for myself, Brett, Jeff, and Mark, we've been pretty well isolating since Christmas Day. We head out tomorrow to go to Vancouver for around 3 weeks. So we have a house rented out there. We're going to practice. That's essentially all we're going to do is practice and hang out in the house, and then head over to Beijing from there. So it allows us a bit of kind of to get almost halfway. So it's not going to be as long a trip for us because it is on the other side of the world for us.
Right. Newfoundland and Labrador, always so damn proud of you, Brad. Are you getting that sense yet again?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't been able to get out and about and talk to many people or get their stories, but just from the messages we've been receiving and I was just talking to my mom and dad and they relayed probably 20 or 30 messages from friends, family, and people that they've seen that are just sending along their best wishes. So I know the province is behind us. I know the country is going to be behind us. But for us, we just have to focus on what we need to do. And if we focus on the province, it adds a lot of pressure. And I remember 16 years ago when we heard the story of the schools closing, my body just started to tighten up really quick. So we have to kind of park that a little bit and just focus on what we need to do.
Adding Mark Kennedy as 5th, by the way, and Jeff Thomas kind of co-coaching now with Jules. What's that? Is that an adjustment at all, or just a change or an addition? Or
with Mark coming on board, I don't think it's much of an adjustment. He's been in this role obviously last year with Brendan's team, and For us, Mark it was a pretty easy choice. We had 2 or 3 people in mind, and Mark had the ability to fill in multiple positions, and he also had experience of being into the Olympics before. So, that choice was pretty easy. And having Jeff come over and support Jules, it's a logical thing for us. We've had a lot of success with Jeff, and Jeff knows our team very well. So to have our normal team there at the Olympics, it makes total sense. And, we're happy that they're going to be there. And then we have Jeff Stoughton as well, who's going to be a big part of our team as our team lead. So we really like the group that we have, and all 8 of us are going to be in the house for 3 weeks, and we'll have some good storytelling time, and we'll have some good times in the house for sure.
Have you looked at the schedule? Because I'm not saying that I've meticulously looked over it, but I do know you have a big last game against Great Britain, Brad. But have you looked over the schedule?
Yeah, I had a glance at it. I don't generally look at it too close to see who we play. I've been to Briars before where I haven't looked at all, and I just go game by game, and I find out who we're playing from the media generally in the scrum. But I did have a glance through it this time, and for me, I just like to see if we have 2 game days or 1 game days where our rest is going to come from. So I had to look at that. We do have a day off, which is odd. You don't get that generally in a Briar, but we did experience that at the Olympics before. And I think we have 1 2 game day and potentially 2 if we make the playoffs. So those are the things I try to figure out, because I have to figure out where the physiotherapy and massage therapy and all that's going to fit. So things change when you get 41 as opposed to when you're 25.
Right.
Oh, things change, I can tell you. Devin and I will be in that scrum, reminding you, pending our bubble.
Congratulations to you guys on that, to heading over there. That's exciting. So
yeah, so we'll be following your every move for sure. Are you still into sports psychology, and what's sort of the prep work because of the pandemic and because of that overwhelming thought all the time? Have you had advice from a sports psychologist about, look, here's how to stay focused on the here and now and throw in rocks and all you can control? Or was that just sports psych there that I gave you?
No, we have a sports psychologist, Aaron McGowan, here in St. John's, has been working with us for the last, I guess, probably 3 or 4 years. And really for us, again, it comes down to planning and making sure we're doing all the right steps. And, this extra anxiety that I think every athlete is going to feel over the next few weeks, you have to address that, because it's going to take a toll on your body. It's going to take a toll on your mind. But it's something everybody has to go through. So you don't want to fight it too much, but you also you don't want to dwell on it either. So that's kind of the mind frame I'm trying to take is, it's natural to be a little bit nervous and have a little bit of anxiety, but you don't want to be consumed by it, and do everything you can to make sure you avoid it, and then just try and get ready to compete as well. And that's the great thing we're going to have out there in Vancouver for 3 weeks, is we're going to be able to work on a lot of team stuff where generally we only get 4 or 5 days together every month where we actually can work on that. Now we get 3 weeks before a big event. So that's pretty exciting.
Brad, you have talked about the dreams you put on your door inside your bedroom. And I think you've won everything there is to possibly win in the game of curling. And you've talked about almost playing with house money and how winning another Olympics isn't going to change much for you in your life. So I wonder, having that perspective, maybe how freeing it is to be able to go into these games, and how much of a difference that can make in how you perform, knowing that you have that perspective.
Yeah, I think it's going to help quite a bit. I think for me, I want to enjoy this experience. I remember 16 years ago just being so focused and having that tunnel vision on playing and competing and not worrying about anything else. But I want to enjoy this and embrace it, and feel pretty grateful for having the opportunity to do this in a pandemic where there are parts of the world that are in lockdown, and we get to go compete at the Olympics, which is pretty fortunate. And from my perspective, whether we win or lose is not going to change too much for me. And I relate it back to probably 2017 when we won the Briar. Obviously, it didn't have that feeling. Was super stressed and anxious and had all those feelings in the Briar. But once we won and we went to the Worlds, we kind of had that feeling again that we were playing with house money, and we had the best performance that we've ever had as a team. So I'm certainly hopeful that will pan out again this time. But, the more relaxed you can be, but still have that focus, I think that's when you perform your best.
Tell the Gushue girls we're going to be booking them for that curling show, by the way, at like 3 a.m. And have you also said to your kids, have you told your kids they can stay up all night to watch you live?
We're still working through that. So the time changes are going to be crazy, and with my wife still having to work, and I know the girls really want to watch it live. Fortunately, I'm going to be gone, so that's a battle for my wife and my girls to figure out. But I'm sure they're going to watch some of them live, but I think there's going to be others where they might have to watch it on tape and figure out what happens. But I want them to enjoy this experience as much as possible. So when we're over there, there's going to be a lot of FaceTime, a lot of Zoom or whatever tool we're going to use, where I can show them the village, show them the venue, so they can be as part of it, as much a part of it as I could possibly make them.
Brad, you'll recall our lengthy conversation about a year ago right now about the oral history I was working on to roll out. It's actually rolling out on this Sunday. And I talked to Bruce Rainey, and I talked to your mother, and I talked to Russ about it. Maybe just some thoughts on what your family has meant to you, and of course, the journey of you and your mom 16 years ago.
Yeah, family's everything. I think for me, this time around, trying to get back to the Olympics, it is about family. It's about giving my daughters the opportunity to see their dad compete at the Olympics and see all the hard work that I've done over the last number of years come to kind of fruition. And when I look back at 16 years ago, it was a tough time for our family. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a struggle in the fall to stay focused before those trials. And she kind of said, you know what, go do what you need to do, go out and win. And we found this, another level when we played at the trials, but then she was supposed to go to the Olympics a couple days before. She couldn't go. And my father and my then fiance, now wife, was able to travel over and tried to make my mom as much a part of that journey as possible. We didn't have the technology that we have today to do that. But I was able to phone her right after the final. And I think there was probably 3 words and a lot of tears on that phone call. So, it's a pretty special moment. But my mom, my dad, my wife, my sister, they've all been integral parts of my success over the last 25, 30 years. Certainly wouldn't be where I am today without their support and without them driving me to the rink or paying for spiels when we were younger, all the stuff that they did. And for my wife having to put up with me for as long as she has. So very thankful. And my daughters now, like I said, they're my motivation.
Yeah. It takes a village, doesn't it? And I know you said you didn't look at the schedule, but when you think about that field, I mean, it's just so mind-bogglingly good.
Yeah, it's deep. Like I looked 16 years ago, the field wasn't very deep. Like we knew we probably, if we played okay, we're going to get to the playoffs, and then you just got to win a couple of games. This time around, there's really 7 or 8 teams, and I'm probably underestimating it that could make the playoffs. There's a lot of good teams, like even the Russian team, Glukov, we played before, and he's a really, really good player. Had a great run at the World Championship, and certainly if those guys get going, they could be right there with Nicholas and Bruce and John and Peter and our team. Like there's a lot of really good teams. So we're going to have to be sharp. We're going to have to play the way we're capable of playing to get to the playoffs. So, but the fortunate thing, we know we're good enough that if we do play our game, we should be around at the end of the week.
Outstanding, Brad. Safe travels out west. And the next time we'll see you, we'll be in Beijing. We'll all be together.
Yeah, and no curling club send-off party for you. There you go.
No, that's a you miss those things, but there's other things to focus on. And Devin, can I take one moment to mention one other thing?
Please do. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just to all your followers, all your viewers out there, we are running a mini series on our social media, not our social media, but Kubota's social media. They've been following us for a year, and we've been working on this project for quite some time, and they've done a great job. There's 5 episodes, which are around 5 or 6 minutes in length, and kind of gives a behind the view scene of our team, what we experienced in the bubble, how Carrie became partners with myself in the mixed doubles process, right up to the trials. And then the 5th episode is actually going to be released after the Olympics. So,
Nice.
I
watched number 1. I loved it.
Yeah, they did a great job with it. So you can go to our website or our Facebook page, Kubota's Facebook page. You can get a link to their page and watch those. So tune in.
Link.
Yeah, it's great footage, and I know Toby's in there as well, and he's been instrumental in your career. And Jules, as outspoken as I've ever seen him, so it's great stuff, Brad.
No, and you'll see Aaron, our sports psychologist, in there as well, Jeff Thomas. It really gives the behind the scenes of who we are as a team and what we've been able to achieve. So
it's great for you, and you know what? It's great for young junior curlers and young curlers, sort of in the under 30 group that are trying to move forward and follow your path. To take a look at the work you did, because that work in the gym looked pretty darn hard.
Well, you'll notice I wasn't in the gym, but
I was looking for your abs, but they weren't there. Anyhow, safe travels to British Columbia. See you in Beijing.
We'll see you in Beijing.
See you.
Pending tests, etc.
So
bringing up the tests.
Yeah, those tests.
I'm nervous.
So the team out west in Vancouver, and doesn't that just tell you the lengths they're willing to go? And interestingly, Gushue has talked about that 2017 first Brier win in St. John's, and the word he actually used back then was, we went into a bubble. Who could have known that 5 years ago Gushue would have been ahead of this whole bubble thing? Right on. but to have to leave your family and go to Vancouver for 3 weeks and bubble, that's a lot of necessary work and part of the journey. But such as the times we're living in with the pandemic and all. Right now, I don't know if you've noticed on the top of the screen tonight. Which way am I pointing? We've got the Olympic rings on the show because it's getting real. And this is the grand finale, and this is exciting to end the show with the CBC Olympic curling broadcast team joining us right now. The best of the best, I think, and they're in the house with us right now, Colleen. Yeah, and Mike Harris, of course, and Bruce Rainey. Hello, Bruce. Look, we're the Brady Bunch and Joanne Courtney. Awesome. Joanne, let's start with you. The news you're also going to be doing the Scotties. Wow, how can you be in 2 places at once?
Yeah, this just in. Such exciting news to hear that we're going to have an opportunity to still play. Thrilled for Rachel. We're just so excited for her and John, and we think that they're going to be great reps. So the deal is I will join as soon as I can. So hopefully get to the Scotties final and then just shoot off to Toronto and come join the team and catch up right when it's all in the thick of it. And well, that was part of the drama of today, that there's going to be the 3 wildcard teams, because you must have been feeling some pressure, what with caveat that Ontario put in it, if Rachel was named to the Olympic team as she was. That must have had you on pins and needles. Yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster, but I think it's been like that for a lot of people. There's so many unknowns, not just in the sporting world, but in the whole world. Part of me still is wondering if the Scotties is even going to run, seeing what the numbers are looking like in Ontario. This Omicron surge is real. I can see it when I'm at work. I can see it with family, with friends. So I think we're just going to continue to go with the flow. We're so grateful that Curling Canada decided to expand the field, and I'm pumped to put Emma in the house. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Awesome. Bruce, it strikes me that we were watching the montage of 2006, and of course you had literally the best seat in the house for when Gushue won Olympic gold, and here we are all these years later, and now you're calling his games at an Olympics. I wonder what that's like for you, and wonderful to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be on the show. You could have sent us a couple of sweatshirts in advance. I want to welcome Joanne to the booth. She's going to bring the average age of the booth way down and the average likability way up when she arrives. So that'll be great. Devin, a lot of people to this day, we're going back to 2006 in Torino. To this day, I still get, maybe 3 or 4 people a year asking me about the interview on ice with Brad Gushue at the end of that game where his mom was crying. And I'll always remember him coming up, and the first words out of his mouth were, I'm sorry for being such a sook, S-O-O-K. And me being a fellow East Coaster, I knew exactly what he meant. We call each other sooks. But I had to explain it to the country at the time that just means, a guy who's not feeling tough at the moment. And I remember saying to him, there's not a person in Canada right now that thinks you're a sook having been through what you've been through. But I'm really excited to be working with Joanne. We had Joanne once before at the mixed doubles in Fredericton, and she was just great. Mike is always a blast. We've been together now for, man, Mike, I was doing the math today. 2008 was our first time in the booth together. So coming up on 14 years. And I think Mike, as fine an analyst in any sport you can find. So bring this on. I know there's a bit of politics and discussion around the mixed doubles team. I'm excited to watch them play. I think they're both superb. And I love the men's team that's going and the women's team that's going. And I can't wait to see what they can do in Beijing.
Yeah. Bruce, for the record, it's not just the guy not being tough that's a sook, but a woman can be a sook too. Okay? It's gender neutral.
Yeah, I think in
people have been tweeting that they
I think it was just guys. Yeah.
What we'll miss the most, Devin and I, is not having Bruce's incredible stories that have us on the floor laughing all the time. So we're going to be missing that. Joanne, you'll get it now. Mike, people tweeted earlier they want to know your honest appraisal of the situation of the mixed doubles. Go ahead, caller.
Well, all I have to say first thing I'm going to say is if you took a poll of all the players who are at the Olympic trials for Canada and all the teams that John Morris and Rachel Homan are going to be competing against at the Olympics, which team would they least want to play in an important game? I think they would all agree that Rachel and John would be that team. So I think we've got a great team. My issue, much like even John Morris mentioned, is that there was so much, there was a lack of transparency. There was a lack of anything. So I was joking. I said, now that Curling Canada's finished their creative writing exercise to give them the power to make John and Rachel the team, we've got a great team. So I think that's at the end of the day, we've got a fantastic team. But they could have ripped the Band-Aid off, as I said last week, the day after the trials were canceled, say, hey, we've got the reigning Olympic champion. We've got Rachel Homan, who's a decent curler, by the way, world champion, multiple Scotties winner. They're going to be the team, and here's why. Yeah. They could have said that 10 days ago. I know there's legal implications and rubber stamps they need from the COC and all these sort of things. I don't think there's any of the curlers who are upset that John and Rachel are going to the Olympics. I think the things that people are upset about is how covert everything seems. So to John's point, I think Curling Canada's got a lot of work to do over the next 4 years to kind of make sure this doesn't happen again. And if it does happen again, they've actually got something documented that they don't have to make up after the fact to cover their own butts.
Yeah.
Right. So I think after that said, we've got an awesome team. We've got an awesome men's team. We've got an awesome women's team. We've got a fantastic mixed doubles team. And I can't wait to cover all the games. This should be great.
Yeah, because some people say, here's the document and the kind of changes to the amendments that they made.
Right.
That they knew the answer, and the answer was Rachel.
How do we get there?
And then they had to come up with the equation.
Right.
And
I don't think that, as much as they try to gloss over, this is how we got there. They wanted them to go. I think that's the bottom line. And as I said, I don't think the curlers are really that upset that they're going because they're an awesome team. I think the curlers are upset because they've had 8 years. The Tucks pointed this out last year. They've had 8 years to kind of make sure all their ducks in a row. The pandemic isn't new. It's almost 2 years old. So they could have had all of this stuff lined up way in advance. But listen, live and learn, right? And we'll be better next time. I think that's the way to look at it. But like I said, from a Canadian curling fans perspective, which is where we're going now, we've got awesome teams to cheer for, fantastic teams. So I'm really, really excited.
Joanne, what did you learn from Korea that you can kind of bring to the broadcast booth and the context you can kind of provide too, and about how tough it is to compete at that level?
I think the biggest thing in Korea is just you're there and you're living your dream, and it's really hard, right? Like it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows the whole time through, and you're trying to enjoy it as much as possible, regardless of the results. But the results do matter. I mean, Brad just said, it doesn't really change my life if we win a gold medal or not, but he's going to get there and he's going to really care about it because we're competitors and this is what we work towards full time and everything goes into it. So trying to manage just that roller coaster of emotions is something that the team that can go there and do that the best gives themselves the best chance of succeeding. What I heard from all of the players tonight was everyone seems really relaxed. Everyone seems quite grounded. Everyone seems to have the best plan they can possibly have and have their ducks in a row. And I know, especially with our mixed doubles team, we were kind of saying, look, they're going into this thing with no notice. But if I know one person who is great at flying by the seat of her pants and just taking things as they come, that's Rachel Homan. And I think John Morris too, who's just fine to kind of roll with the punches and get going here when they get their training camp started this weekend. So I'm really excited to take it all in, and I think that the level of competition is going to be unprecedented.
Let's face it, Rachel almost won the Scotties last year and gave birth like 2 days later, so she can roll with the punches. Okay, nothing phases her, clearly.
I want to jump into that point. Joanne saying, the competition is going to be at an all-time high. And Bruce, at the start of the show, Jennifer says every Olympics we say, this is the best field ever. You've been to many now, and you're preparing and you're looking over the fields and the names and the teams. Is this the most stacked Olympics we've ever seen in the curling event?
Yeah, by a mile, especially I think on the women's side. I think on the men's side, there are probably 3, maybe 4 teams that you could pencil in and have a good shot. On the women's side, you can get down to 7 or 8, and it would be not a shock to see any of those 7 or 8 on the podium. So I remember, Mike, when you and I and Joe McCusker were doing our opening for South Korea, we talked about this women's field being the deepest ever, and that was 2018. It's deeper now than it's ever been. And man, if you're trying to handicap this one, good luck for all of you sport bettors out there. Good luck.
But go ahead and handicap it, Mike.
Well, I think to your point, Bruce, the women's field, there are literally 8 teams that could win the gold medal, and you would say, yeah, that's a great team. You've got the only 2 outliers for me are China and Denmark, right? That would be, if either one of those 2 teams wins, that would be, for me, a big surprise. Any of the other 8, totally legitimate, no surprise at all. Men's field, 1A, 1B, 1C, you've got Dean Mowat and Gushue, right? John Schuster, reigning Olympic champions right there. Peter de Cruz, bronze medalist from Pyeongchang. There's 5. Tell you who's awesome, right? Is Italy. No one knows these guys. They played amazing at the European Championship. They were so good. And then the mixed doubles, it's really wide open. You got the reigning world champions. You've got the Olympic gold medalist, half of it, Olympic silver medalist, Olympic bronze medalist, all there to start, right? And then there's 4 or 5. The Australian team. Look how good they were. Chris Plies and Persinger from the States. How good they played to get to the Olympics. So there's 6 teams of the 8 who are great. So it's going to be a fantastic competition. And what I loved what Joanne just said, someone who flies by the seat of her pants well is Rachel Homan. I don't know that. So I hope you're bringing that kind of stuff to the show with us, Joanne, because that to me was like oh, really? That is a surprise to me. So that's again why we're bringing Joanne with us, right? Yeah. So that she can provide that kind of insight for us after she finishes winning the Scotties first, right? Of course.
Well, Joanne, you played everybody.
She also tends to know a bit more about sweeping than you. just a little bit more.
A little bit. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Joanne, rate the women's side because you've played against these teams for the last number of years, so you know just how great they are. And where does Jennifer rank in that?
Honestly, it's really hard to say because I think when you get Jennifer at her best, I think she's really hard to stop. I was chatting with my family towards the end of the Olympic trials, and I said, look, if Jones is in the playoffs, I think she's going to win. Just because this is, like she said, it's the big moment, the big stage, and this is what she plays for. This is where she just comes out and shines through. So I think if they're feeling it, I like their chances at a medal and if not that, another gold medal. And then it gets it's just so deep, like we said. I mean, you've got Anna Hasselborg, they're a phenomenal team. You've got Switzerland. They just won the last 2 world championships in a row. The American team has been rolling this year with their change, putting Tabitha Peterson at skip and Nina Roth at third. And then the South Korean team. We've got Japan. I mean, there's
Eve
really,
Muirhead.
Silver and bronze from Pyeongchang, right?
yeah. And then there's
Eve Muirhead, by the way. She's not terrible.
Yeah, they had a lot of tryouts this fall and put together the best lineup they could possibly do. And Scotland's been doing a lot of internal events. So it's really hard to say who's going to come out firing in this thing. And the one thing I kind of think about is which teams needed to play their way into competition mode and which teams are actually going to benefit from strictly training. Because everything's kind of been shut down in the world. That Grand Slam got canceled where we should be right now playing. Right. So what teams kind of needed the tune-up to be able to go into this thing strong, and what teams are going to be able to manage the uncertainty and then just kind of strictly having training versus competition.
Well, all they're doing is training right now since, that last chance that Eve and Japan and Korea qualified in. So there's a lot to play in. Well, you guys are going to have a ball. Call up whenever.
Agreed. No question. Yeah.
Just all the live all night. That's all. 2 a.m. We'll be there.
Joanne's a nurse. She's worked midnight shift before. Bruce and I don't have this kind of experience, so we're going to we'll see how it goes.
By the 4th or 5th day, you just get on nocturnal time, and it'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
easy as that.
This is getting me excited, and we will be talking to the three of you throughout the entire thing at the wildest hours.
They won't even take our call then. They'll be like,
yeah. We'll if it's between games, we'll definitely want to be doing something, because we'll have I think between the afternoon and evening draw for you guys, there's going to be 2.5 hours where that you're talking 4:30 in the morning till 7 in the morning Toronto time, where I really probably want to go to sleep. So we were happy to talk to you guys. Really, really happy to talk to you.
We have this recorded. We have this on the record.
Done.
Joanne, welcome back to the team. Nice to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Good luck in the Scotties.
Thank you.
Yeah, play well.
Great to see you guys.
Who's playing what position? Can I ask?
Oh, details to come, guys. Details to come.
Oh, wait a minute. You play boy when you're in the broadcast team.
Great stuff. And awesome to see.
Joanna's going to be skipping.
Oh, no, we're not reversing the lineup. No, I voted no on that. Not that idea.
Okay.
We'll stay put with lead for me.
All right.
We'll leave it there.
All right. Thanks, guys. Safe travels to Beijing.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Travel well, guys. Thanks for a lot of fun tonight and great job with the show. And let's look forward to a wicked next month. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Buckle up. Awesome stuff, guys. Great to see you all.
Your shirts are in the mail.
I really think we could all wear the shirt. That would look quite nice.
We love it. We're just into it right now.
We really are.
All right. So thank you, friends, for asking for another That Curling show. Some of them, when they say, isn't it time? They're almost always right.
Well, I have jokingly tweeted before the show, the perks to doing a weekly show is that I have to clean up my place at least once a week. And the plants are thriving, Cole. I still have yet to find a plant sitter for the 2 months that I'm going to be away, because of course I'm at the Olympics and I'm staying right through until the end of the Paralympics. So I'm not back until March 15th when we leave on the 26th of January.
Wow. Okay, summing up with our final end, the breaking news story, of course, was the big announcement about Rachel and Johnny. Then number 2, the Scotties and the Briars going to a massive field with 3 wildcard teams like last year.
Right.
And there was a third big story where we were taught. Did we mention that yet about
we
working
did. I mean, right before we went to air, I received a note that there is a group of about 80 curlers, mixed doubles curlers, Colleen, across the country that are coming together, and they're talking about revamping the point system, the qualifying system, creating an advisory board with the hope of working with Curling Canada to sort of change the mixed doubles landscape. So I think we really need to pay attention to that. That is something that sounds very serious and intentional about the way this sport is moving forward, quite frankly.
This isn't over by any stretch of the imagination. Well, and I think Mike said it well. Well, everybody can get on board with John and Rachel, and I know they're a great team,
right?
And they'll represent Canada very well. And this was not their issue. The issue was about transparency. The issue was about this idea that points matter, but suddenly points don't matter.
Right.
And everybody realizes it's a pandemic and this is the most unusual of times, and nobody wanted the mixed Olympic trials to be canceled, and they were.
Yep.
Now that it's sort of blown up, how do you rework it and fix it and make it better? So that's the final end on that.
That's the final end. Call, I think the next time we're going to be talking, yeah, somebody's saying, wasn't that curling show supposed to be 30 minutes?
All right.
That's not happening. There will be details about our daily That Curling show in Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can tease is that it'll be very late for Colleen and I, so that we can be live with all of you. That's do you
Okay.
have lots of coffee, Call?
And bags under our eyes, just we'll get concealer. Okay,
But
we'll be fine.
we're
Anyhow.
we're here for you. We're here for you.
All right. Love y'all. And thanks, producer Soph. Next time we will keep it to a half hour, we promise. It was just so much breaking news, so much drama.
Won't happen. We'll talk to you from the Olympics.
That sounds good. I like the ring to that. Night, everyone.